We never ask someone, why are you getting married? Like, why? 56% of marriages end in divorce. So that means 56% of them catastrophically fail to the point where you end them.
You buy a house, they make you fill out 50 forms explaining that you understand the lead paint disclosures, you understand the loan, you understand everything. You get married, you don't get a pamphlet. Marriage is like the lottery. You're probably not going to win.
James Sexton is the world's #1 divorce lawyer who's learned more about love than most couples ever will, and today, he's telling us why.
Women, in my experience, cheat as often as men. But when women cheat, it's like a professional hit. Like they select the perfect partner for it, and they create the perfect conditions, and like they rarely get caught. It's a miracle that any marriage does well.
Yeah.
Men go the other way and are like go out for milk and never come back. They are very avoidant of the conflict.
You should go about a breakup the same way you go about firing somebody, which is be direct, be to the point, and be clear.
Tell us about the case that you spoke about in your book that broke your heart.
I have a hard time talking about that case. I was representing a rather awful person, and it didn't get into evidence. And it should have, it should have. It would have been really easy. It was the right thing to do for her to win, and she didn't because she's poor.
Just before we get into today's episode, we have a favor to ask you, and that is, can you please hit that subscribe button? It's somewhere there on the screen for you. It's very easy, and it means so much to us as creators.
This allows us to keep raising the bar on the guests that we bring you guys every week and build our community even bigger. So hit that subscribe button and let's get into today's episode.
James, with the amount of change that is going on in the world right now, we've got AI, we've got wars going on, we've got job losses happening. Are the reasons for people turning up to your office different to what they were 10 years ago?
I wouldn't say they're different. The reasons are different. Like the fundamental core reasons haven't changed at all. But the problems associated with those issues or the manifestation of those issues. Because I think, personally, I think that like things like infidelity, which is like a big marriage killer. Infidelity is a factor in the overwhelming majority of divorces that I've handled in 25 years. I wouldn't say it's the cause. I would say it's a symptom. The cause is disconnection. The cause is the way that people who once said, out of 8 billion choices, this is the person that I'm picking, they disconnected. And I think they disconnect the way that they go bankrupt, very slowly and then all at once. And I think all of these technological changes, being able to text, social media, how easy it's made it to communicate with people that you kind of have no business talking to, and that you're probably going to be tempted by having some ability to communicate with without your partner or spouse there watching. Those are all new manifestations of age-old problems, right? Like I think that, infidelity was probably invented 5 minutes after monogamy was invented. Like whatever cave, the first cave people were in, I'm sure they walked out and then went, oh, look over there, and that started it, And so has texting made it easier? Sure. Like smoke signals would have been a hard way to get in touch with your lover, but texting's easier, But the core problems, they're still the same. The evidentiary problems, the ways to prove what people are doing and not doing for a lawyer, those have gotten easier because people are just sloppy as hell when it comes to their texting or what they put on social media, or, they talk about I'm not a big drinker in a custody trial. And then you're like, really, what about these 80 Instagram posts that you made where you were absolutely hammered? So I think that has changed, but the fundamental things haven't changed. Has marriage changed since it was invented? Yes, in many ways, but has the fundamental concept of two people in a pair bond connecting to each other and saying, hey, let's try to make a go of this, that hasn't changed.
I imagine you must, have clients come to you and show you those text messages like, can you believe it? Can you believe this person has that must not shock you anymore.
Nothing shocks me anymore, but I have learned that I have to be better at that when it comes to my clients. Right. Because, by the end of the week, I will tell you candidly, by the end of the week, it's harder for me. It's harder for me to act like my staff laughs because when I do a new client consultation, when I have someone coming in and, You know, it can be someone who like the night before I was watching a film they're in on Netflix, you know, and now they're coming in for a consult about their divorce. And I say to my staff, like, all right, I have to put on my charming, I care what's going on in your life face. Here we go. You know, and it's, you know, it really is like, yeah, obviously. Well, you know, that's very important. And it's also, I'm explaining to this person, because whether they're, you know, a politician, a movie star, an athlete, or just like the postman, I have to explain the same basic concepts to them. Like, how does alimony work? How is child support calculated? How does custody and parenting time work? You know, all of these things that I've now explained to thousands of people over the last 25 years. And just like a stand-up comic who's like said the same jokes a million times, you kind of have to make it fresh.
Yeah.
Like if I just walked in and went like, child support is calculated as a percentage based on how many children you have, like you would just go like, wow, this guy's really phoning it in. So I'm good at like when someone says, you know, I can't believe that my spouse cheated on me. I do have to go like, yeah, you know, look, it's a painful thing, you know, that you're facing. And is there a part of me that, you know, wants to say like, really? Like, you can't believe that? Like, that's shocking to the point that you, like, I think there's sort of an assumption of risk. Like, you get in a relationship, if you say like, I can't believe my spouse is secretly a serial killer, yeah, that's pretty shocking. You know, but if you're like, I can't believe my spouse did this thing that literally millions of people have done and that movies are constantly made about and that any of us who's been in a relationship for more than 5 minutes has thought about at some point, and you're looking at me going, I can't believe that. You're like, really? You can't believe that? Like that feels like you're being naive, you know? So if it's late in the week, and also maybe because I'm getting older, I will sometimes be less unflappable. Like I'll just sort of go like, oh yeah, that's, you know, it's really unfortunate. But anyway, let's focus on the issues. But I do try still to remember that like, this is their first divorce.
Yeah.
It isn't mine. Like it's my 5,000th divorce, you know, but it's uniquely powerful to them, you know. And sometimes when a client says to me, you know, I know you see this sort of thing all the time, and my case is just one case, and that there's a part of me that responds to that like, oh, like, no, like I genuinely don't feel that way. Like like I'm still so humbled by the things people trust me with, you know, like the things that people put in my hands and say, help, you know, I'm stunned how humbled I still am by that. So I don't mean to sound like I'm callous about it. But I do sometimes still feel like I have to, I'm still so deeply invested emotionally in their case, but my job is to be very dispassionate about it and see it very clearly so I can see it strategically, and I can see it the way a judge might see it. And I can see it the way opposing counsel might see it. So I have to be a tactician. Like if I went to a doctor, you know, if one of my kids, I mean, my kids are grown-ups now, but when they were little, like if I went to a doctor with my kids are sick and the doctor went like, oh my God, your kids are so sick. I'm like, I don't want that doctor.
Totally.
Like, I don't want that doctor. Like I want the doctor who comes in and goes, okay, here's what's going on. I've seen it before. Here's plan A. If that doesn't work, here's plan B.
Yeah.
Like, because I'm emotional in that moment.
Yeah.
Like I don't want my professional, my tactician to be sad and overwhelmed. I'm sad and overwhelmed, you know? So I feel like part of what people want from me is I was once described by New York Magazine, they meant it as a compliment, as the sociopath you want on your side. And I took it as a compliment. I mean, only in this line of work do people, I had someone sit across from me earlier today in a consultation, and they said with a straight face, I heard you're a ruthless son of a bitch. And they meant it as a compliment. Like they meant like that, and that's why I'm here. And it you know, it only in my line of work does that happen.
James, why divorce law? Like there's so many different avenues you could have gone down. What was it about divorce law, family law that drew you to it?
It really was the only thing I wanted to do. I don't know what that says, but I studied psychology as an undergraduate. I thought I wanted to be a therapist, but I figured out really quickly that therapists are supposed to be better at listening than talking.
Yeah.
And I'm better at talking.
Yeah.
And I'm good at debate. I'm good at extemporaneous speech. and I'm not good at staying quiet. I secretly would love to be the strong silent type. I got strong maybe, but not silent at all. And so if you haven't figured that out. And so I really knew that I wanted to apply that skill set in a way that helped people. And I was always a debater. I always enjoyed debate. I debated in high school and in college. And I loved the strategy of argument. I'm not an argumentative person in real life. Like I'm the most laid back person in real life. Like I don't argue politics with people. I will only argue if you've paid.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not going to argue for free. I used to tell my sons when they were teenagers, I'm like, I can't argue with you for free. It would be unfair to my clients. Like I can't, you know? So I just think I was well suited for it. And it was the combination of strategy and extemporaneous speaking and performance, because being a trial lawyer is a performance. It's like being, the fun parts of being an actor. And it's also the helping portion that I really wanted to do, like as a psychologist or a therapist. It's what I wanted to do. I wanted to use my powers of persuasion to the benefit of people who were in an undeniably difficult situation that they couldn't pretend they meant to be in. Like there was something very beautiful to me about that, about like we're so performative now, even more so than ever with social media. Like everything we do, we're like, oh, I meant to do that. Or like we break up and we're like, oh, I never really felt that connected to this person anyway. And there's something about like, just, you can't pretend you meant to get divorced. Like you're lying. Like you can't pretend you meant to get divorced. Like you really thought this was the one. Maybe you had your doubts, maybe you had your fears, but there's no way that you just signed up for this thing just on a whim. Like it really was something you hoped would work, and now it didn't. And now what? Like I think there's something really beautiful about that. It's an invitation. See, I never saw myself as someone whose job was to facilitate the demise of unhappy marriages. I saw myself as someone whose job was to help create the architecture of the next chapter of someone's life, like to give them the tools they needed, the resources they needed, the time with their kids that they needed to have the next chapter of their life, their post-divorce life, be as happy as it could possibly be. And that's still to this day why I love the work, because it's really fun to be part of that. And it's really fun to see people who were in my office a year ago, 2 years ago, just broken, crying, like just life was over. Like it was all over. Like they were losing everything. And it's 5 years later, it's 10 years later, and they're getting remarried or they're happy and well. And like I was a piece of that. I was a piece of that path. And that felt to me like all the things I wanted when I wanted to be a therapist. But with a skill set where I got to like go in court and beat the crap out of people. I kind of love that.
Love it.
James, do you think that men and women think differently about marriage?
I think we approach relationships differently because I think we're different. I mean, I know sometimes that's not a popular thing to say, but I think that men and women generally process things differently. I think men are very problem-solving, solution-oriented. We're very linear in our thinking. We're very impatient in our thinking and in our way of approaching each other, I think. Again, these are generalizations, obviously. I think women sometimes suffer from a choice paralysis. Like their brains are they're just moving so fast and they're trying to weigh so many options all at once. And they're trying to meet so many competing needs. And like they're trying to be so conciliatory and thoughtful and proactive. And sometimes even just, the hardest thing for me to learn in my own relationships as a heterosexual man was like, because I solve problems for a living, but also just because I'm a man, like I love solving problems. So, whenever a romantic partner would, be like, oh, I'm having this problem with my sister, I'd be like, all right, well, here's what you need to do. You should talk to her about that. And then you should do that. And a lot of times, like it took me like 50 years to figure out that like all they really wanted from me was to go, man, that must be hard. Like that must be really hard. And that's so much easier, by the way.
Yeah.
Like it's so much easier, but it's like the last thing that would have occurred to me because, if I call a buddy of mine and I'm like, oh man, I can't believe X, Y, and Z is going on. And he went, that must be really hard. I'd be like, yeah, no shit, it's really hard. Like, what should I do though? I'm calling you because I'd like to know. And, more of the time than not, they would want. So I think that because we approach those kinds of things differently, I think that we approach connection to another person differently.
Yeah.
Like when you approach your connection to yourself differently, of course you're going to approach your pairing with another person differently.
Yeah.
Like we're strangers to ourselves to some degree, you know, and so we're trying to figure ourselves out, and we're trying to figure ourselves out while we figure out how to be ourselves with someone else who's trying to figure out how to be themselves. Like it's a miracle that any marriage does well, you know, because we're such mysteries to ourselves. But I think that women, to turn it to the other direction, when a marriage ends, men who I think are better at conflict in some ways or less conflict adverse in some ways, men go the other way and are like go out for milk and never come back. Like they are very avoidant of the conflict. Whereas women, it takes them longer to get to the place where it's over. But man, once they do, it's like a professional hit a lot of the time. Like once the woman's made her mind up, it's like, I always say this about cheating. Like women, in my experience, cheat as often as men. But when women cheat, it's like a professional hit. Like they select like the perfect partner for it. And then they create the perfect conditions, and like they rarely get caught. And like, it's usually like someone who would be a soft place to land, you know, where it would be a good pairing for them after, or someone who would just be really fun, like their personal trainer or their tennis instructor who's like a bunch of years younger or whatever, or like gorgeous. And men will literally stake every single thing they own and their whole life for like a woman who's like totally unattractive and they like met in an alley. You know, like they're just like, okay, you know, and kind of, it's like men cheat dumb and women cheat smart. And it's very different.
Yeah.
Like it is different. Men and women are different. But again, like some of the problems that they both deal with in the context of the dissolution of a relationship are very similar. You know, I think men have less of a difficult time with losing their identity in divorce. And I think women are faster. I mean, if you look at how like a woman takes a man's name often, right? Like how many, I mean, not all the time, sometimes they hyphenate, but how many women do you know took their husband's name? I know quite a few. How many men do you know took their wife's name? I know none. I know fully none. Like, so there is this concession in marriage of like, oh, this is gonna become who I am, you know, like I'm with you. And I think because of that, as a direct tie to that, there is a loss of identity that many women experience. By the way, sometimes with joy. Like sometimes they're like, yeah, I can't wait to get rid of this identity. It didn't fit. Like I was never Bob's wife. I was Jill.
Yeah.
You know, like I was Jill and I hated being Bob's wife. Like I like being Jill, you know, and I can't wait to go back to being Jill. So that I think is another difference. But you know, there's probably many, but I just don't know that I've ever like drilled it down.
James, if somebody is about to get married, what is the one piece of advice you would give them?
Don't do it. Run. No, I'm kidding. I would never say that. I would never say that. My son got married 3 weeks ago. So the first piece of advice I would give them is consider having a prenup.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's important. Have a prenuptial agreement. And what I would say to them is that every marriage has a prenuptial agreement. It's either one that's written by the government and can be changed by the government without your consent, or it's one that's written by you and the person you allegedly like more than the other 8 billion options in the world. So if you ask me, who is more qualified to create the rule set for my relationship? Politicians I've never met and who've never met me, or this person that I like more than 8 billion other people? That seems like a very easy choice. So I would say a prenup. And the other thing is, and I don't know why this is such an indelicate question to ask someone, but we never ask someone, why are you getting married?
Yep.
Like, why? Like if you said to me, Jim, I'm starting a podcast, it would be okay for me to go, really, why? You know, and if you said, oh, because I enjoy it and I think it'd be fun and I have something to say and I have a point of view and I think I can make some money at it, whatever. If you said, guess what, I'm getting married. If I went, oh, really, why? Like what? That would be a rude question. But like, 56% of marriages end in divorce. So that means 56% of them catastrophically fail to the point where you end them, right? How many more stay together for the kids or because they don't want to give away half their stuff? Another 10%. I'm being generous. Let's say 20%.
Yeah.
Now we have a technology that fails 76% of the time. If I said to you there's a 76% chance that when you walk out of your house today, you're going to get hit in the head with a bowling ball,
Yeah.
you would stay home.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or you would wear a helmet. Like 76% is crazy. And yet, not only do we encourage people to get married, would be weird to ask someone, why are you getting married? So I would, if someone said they're going to get married, I would say, at the risk of seeming rude, why? Like, what is it about marriage? Like, because I think we all agree, if you really love someone, you don't have to marry them to continue to love them, right?
Yep.
Like, there's a lot of people I love that I wouldn't want to be married to. Actually, all of them.
Yeah.
All of the people I love, I would not want to be married to. So that tells me that love and marriage are not causal. They might be correlated in some way. Statistically, maybe not. But, I think the reality is that it's okay to ask the question, why are you getting married? And by the way, there are some really good answers. Like, I'd really like to have a big party where everybody I love comes to, a place and has good food and drinks and dances and celebrates my love for this person and their love for me. And I don't want the first time that everyone I love to be in the same room celebrating me to be my funeral. Like, I want it to be that I can be there. Like, man, that's a great reason to get married. Like, that's a great reason to get married. Or it's really important to my parents. Like, it's not that important to me. We're in love. We're happy. But like, my parents are old school. It's really important to them. Okay, cool. Good reason. I'd like the tax deduction that comes with it. Cool. Good reason. I want to be on this person's health insurance. These are all good reasons. I don't want to lose this person. Why would you lose this person if you don't get the government involved in your relationship? That just seems weird to me.
Yeah.
Or I really don't ever want to be lonely. Getting married is no guarantee you're not going to be lonely. Like, just like saying, I want to continue to have sex with this person. Well, it's not a guarantee you're going to continue to have sex with this person to marry them. Like, so I think unless you ask the question, what is the problem marriage is a solution to, you really aren't thinking about why you're doing a thing. And to do something that big that fails that often without even thinking about it, I think is a very dangerous thing.
Tell us about the case that you spoke about in your book that broke your heart, where you represented a pimp.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a tough case. I have a hard time talking about that case. It's funny. I wrote the book, and, you write a book and you're just sort of like looking at characters on the screen, And then I had to record the audiobook. And when you record the audiobook, it's me talking for 8.5 hours, which is that's a lot of Jim Sexton. And I recorded it over a couple of days. And you have to read your whole book out loud. And they put you in a sound booth and you have an iPad that has your book on it and you're reading it out loud. And I got to that chapter and I had written it no problem. And I'd never read it out loud. And I got about halfway through it and I could not keep it together. I started crying. I had to take a break. I was messed up by that chapter. And because it's still probably 23 years later, it's still very painful to think about that case. I was representing a rather awful person. He was a pimp. That was what he did for a living. He prostituted women for a living. He had some other interests. He owned like a business. He sold guns and drugs as well, illegally. But he had like a business that was like a front for all of it. And he had a bunch of women that he was a pimp to, and he had children with some of them. And one of them, he had beaten her up very badly. And she went to family court and got an order of protection against him, a temporary order of protection against him. And he hired me to defend him on the order of protection because it's a family court matter. It's not a criminal matter. And I did. And I was up against, because she was poor, they gave her an assigned lawyer. And the lawyer that they gave her was extremely inexperienced. Like, I think it was her second or third trial she'd ever done. And usually when a lawyer is somewhat inexperienced and they're up against a more experienced lawyer, the judge will kind of even the playing field a little bit. Like if the young lawyer, the new lawyer, the baby lawyer is like not getting something right, it's perfectly okay for the judge to say, counselor, maybe you want to try asking it this way. Like, and I was waiting for that to happen. But this judge was an older judge. He retired a few years after this. And he was in a bad mood. And there was a photograph. It was essentially the only evidence of my client beating this woman up very badly. And it was a photograph of her face, and it was just beaten to a pulp. And this was a key piece of evidence. And to get a photograph into evidence, there's a very simple little script you kind of have to say. And that is, you have it marked for identification, and then you show it to the witness and you say, I'm showing you it's been marked for identification as Petitioner's Exhibit 1. Do you recognize that? Yes. What do you recognize it to be? It's a photograph. Does that photograph fairly and accurately depict, those are the magic words, fairly and accurately depict your face after the injuries you sustained, or whatever it is? Does this fairly and accurately depict your front door? Does it fairly and accurately depict your dog? And then you say, Your Honor, I'd like to move this into evidence, and then it's in evidence. Okay. For whatever reason, this very young and experienced lawyer couldn't remember, didn't know the words. So she handed the photo to the witness and she said, what is that a picture of? And I did my job, which is I stood up and said, objection, Your Honor. So asked the witness to talk about a document, it's not in evidence. And instead of helping, the judge went, yeah, sustained. So then I saw the lawyer stop for a second and she said, what is this a picture of? I said, same objection, Your Honor. She's asking about the contents of a document, not in evidence. And that's when the judge should have said, ma'am, does this fairly and accurately depict your face? Thank you. Move on, counselor. But he didn't. He just didn't. I mean, he was annoyed at this young lawyer that they didn't know what they were doing. And he was just in a bad mood. And I have a job to do, and so I was going to do my job. And then she tried again. She said, who took this picture? And she said, I don't know who took it. And she said, well, what is this picture of? And I stood up and said, Your Honor, same objection. And he said, counsel, he's like, sustained. And the lawyer just went, I don't know what to do.
Oh my God.
And she just sat down. And it didn't get into evidence. And it should have. It should have. Because, it would have been really easy. It was the right thing to do for her to win. And she didn't, because she's poor. That was the only reason why. Because she's poor. And they gave her an assigned lawyer. And the only people that do assigned work are brand new lawyers who need the money. I know, because I was one. When I started my career, I got $25 an hour doing assigned cases. And I made my share, of mistakes. I think all young lawyers do. But this was just a catastrophic mistake. And the case got dismissed. And I was watching this happen, and there was a dialogue happening inside my brain where the human being in me was just thinking, just say the words, just say the word, just fairly and accurately depict, just say the words, don't do this, don't screw this up, oh my God, this person is counting on you, and the case got dismissed, and we walked out, and my client had a big smile on his face, and he patted me on the back, and he said, I'll never forget, he said, man, one good lawyer is better than 20 stick-up men. And I just remember I felt just dirty.
Yeah.
I just felt awful. I felt awful. And I didn't, it stayed with me, that case.
Yeah.
It stayed with me. I mean, the PS of the story is that lawyer actually became an amazing lawyer. I'm friends with her still. And in the book, I fictionalized it. I made her into a guy, and I changed the facts a little bit. But she's a colleague now, and she's someone, she still calls me and picks my brain about cases. And but she's a great trial lawyer now. She's really, it's been a bunch of years. It's been 13, 14 years or more. And she's a really good lawyer now. And you know, she and the guy, the client, he's been in jail for a really long time. He got caught like 2 years later on federal gun charges, and he went to prison. I don't know whatever happened to that woman. I hope she's well. You know, the way I reconcile myself with that case is that I represent the client, but I also represent the system.
Mm.
And I don't always believe in the client, but I have to believe in the system. Like, I have to believe that everybody has a right to vigorous representation within the bounds of advocacy. And I have an obligation to do my job. Like, my client has a right to due process. And I play the game by the rules. And the rule set is what the rule set is. I don't cheat. Like, I want to win or lose a fair fight. And the truth has a way of coming out, sometimes despite my best efforts. Like, sometimes I'm working very hard to prevent the truth from coming out, and it has a way of still coming out. So, but yeah, that case still, like, it still has the power to move. It amazes me how that case still has the power to move me. I mean, I started this conversation telling you how, like, nothing surprises me anymore, and I don't really feel any of this stuff anymore. But that case I just remember the feeling of, like, this is so wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm the only person that can't do anything about it. Like, this judge could fix it. This lawyer could fix it. Like, anybody in this room could fix it but me, and I'm powerless to fix it, you know? And that was the worst feeling.
Did you ever have a one-on-one conversation with that judge privately after that case?
It would have been inappropriate for me to do that. But what I will tell you, I've never told this to anybody before. But you're out of the US, so it'll never get back to you. When he retired, and I stayed in touch with him because I liked him as a judge. He was a nice guy. I just think he'd been on the bench over 30 years. I think he was burnt out and caught him on a bad day. But I gave him a copy of the book. And I told him, I think you'll think chapter 13 or whatever it was is interesting. And because he made a joke, he's like, "Oh, am I in the book?" I was like, "Well, I can't say you're in the book, but you might enjoy chapter 13."
Yeah.
And I never heard from him about it again. I will tell you, the lawyer on the other side of the case who couldn't get the photo in, when I said to her, I ran into her like a couple of weeks after the book came out, and she said, "Oh, Jim," she said, I read your book. And I said, "Really? Oh, that's so nice of you." And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Did you like it?" And she said, "Yeah, the most horrifying moment of my entire legal career is now, published for the whole world. It's really great." And I said, "Oh man," I said, "Come on, I made you a guy." I said, "And I made it understandable." And I showed that it was the judge's fault. She goes, "I know, I'm not mad at you." She's like, she's like reading it. It was like just having to go through it all over again. I was like, "Well, if it's any consolation," I was like weeping in an audio booth while reading it. And she was like, "Yeah, that does actually make me feel a little better." And I was like, okay.
Thank you for sharing that, James. There's another chapter in your book that I want to talk about. It's called Hit Send Now. Can you kind of explain that theory to us and how people can implement it into their relationships?
Yeah. So the idea of Hit Send Now is kind of based on the idea that, like, no single raindrop's responsible for the flood. But the flood is made up of all these little individual raindrops, and so I think we fall in love really fast, and we fall out of love very slowly and then all at once. And so I think one of the most important things we can do is find this balance, because a lot of times in relationship, we don't want to, like, rattle things.
Yeah.
We don't want to, like, we have a limited amount of time with our partner, and we're like, I'm not going to make a big deal out of something unless it's a big deal. But sometimes, like, big deals are made up of lots of little deals. Like, anyone who's ever been in a relationship knows, like, you're sitting there having a conversation about, like, what's the best way to cook bacon. And, like, 5 minutes later, you're like, "I never liked your mother." And it's like, what was that? Like, where the heck, how long have you had that in their pocket for? Like, 3 weeks ago you said this. And you're like, what are you walking around with that?
Yeah.
Like, what was that? Like, I thought we were talking about bacon. Like, what just happened? But the truth is, like, these little things add up, and they disconnect us from our partner. And so Hit Send Now is about the idea that, like, how do we keep little things, or how do we deal with the smoke before it becomes the fire?
Yeah.
And how do we do it in a way that doesn't bring out something defensive in our partner? You know, like, and one of the examples I give is, you know, it's not uncommon for, you know, for men or women, for a man to say, you know, we used to have a whole bunch more sex in our relationship, and now we don't have as much as we used to. When we were dating, we were all the time, and now it's just once a week or whatever. Well, if you go to your partner and you say like, hey, you know, why aren't we having as much sex as we used to? Or why don't you just leave it? Immediately, they're going to be defensive. It's going to be like, well, you know, listen, we got the kids now. What do you want me to do? Like, stick them in a closet? Like, you know, like, like, I mean, you've been working all the time. And what am I supposed? Now, I think there's a way to have that conversation, because I don't think just shutting your mouth and not saying anything about these things that you're feeling is a good idea. But A, I think you have to figure out ways to do it that it doesn't bring out something defensive in your partner. And B, I think you have to think about how to frame the issue. So like that example I just gave, if I say, hey, how come you're not sleeping with me as often as you used to? That feels like I'm asking for a defensive answer. Whereas if I say, you know, like, I love it when we feel close, you know, like I was thinking the other day about, remember when we went to blah, 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 and how like nice it was to be, you know, like I feel lately like a little disconnected from you, you know, and like even physically I feel disconnected from you. And I really love when we feel close, you know, like, and if there's something I'm doing that like is making us feel disconnected like that, so that we're like not as physically connected, like, man, I want to get it right. Like I hope you'd let me know. Like, now you're not inviting defense. That person might be like, well, listen, maybe we just been kind of ships passing in the night. It's not personal. I'd be like, yeah, well, then let's make a point of it, you know, because I miss that. Like, I miss how when we feel close, who would not want to hear that?
Yeah.
Like, who would not want their partner to say like, man, I just love when I feel close to you. And like, I just like that's such a lovely sentiment, you know? And really that's what you're saying. Like, you're saying like, hey, I really like when we're like together. I think you're attractive. I like being with you. Like, and it's a lovely thing to say to your partner. So hit send now is about like, just like not picking fights constantly with your partner, but letting little things stay little things. Like, if your partner said something about your sister in a conversation with friends over and it sat the wrong way with you, you can let it build up and fester and fester. And then, or I give the suggestion of sending an email, because email, like, you can think it through, you can phrase it right, you can send it when you're ready. That's why I said hit send now.
Yeah.
And when they receive it, it's not like a conversation where they feel they have to answer right away. Like, if you even say to your partner, like, hey, let's start doing this. Like, you don't have to answer. Like, I just want to get this off my chest. We can talk about it another time. We can go for a walk this weekend and talk about it. Or you can write me back when you want to. This is just me hitting send. This is just me, like, getting this out. When we were talking the other night, we had those friends over. You made that joke about my sister. Maybe you were joking, but it just like sat weird because I thought you liked my sister, and like it's important to me that you like my sister. And then the person might, you know, like, okay, they're not going to be as defensive in the way they approach it. I think it's a whole lot easier to keep connection than it is to lose it and try to reconnect, right? Like, it's a lot easier to stay a healthy weight than it is to gain a bunch of weight and then try to lose it. So my thing is like preventative. My sister's a dentist, you know, and she always says to me, like, by the time someone has a toothache, there's like two things I could do. I could drill, like, fill the tooth, or I could pull the tooth. But if you come to me before you have a toothache, there's like a whole bunch of things I can do that you won't get a toothache. So that's the time to see the dentist. If you're one of those people that's like, oh, I'm only going to go to the dentist when I have a toothache, great. Then you've eliminated almost every option. Like, you're going to be very unhappy. You know, dentist's going to make a lot of money, but you're going to be very unhappy. Same thing. Like, I feel like if you wait until things are bad and you're in a fight in your relationship to try to like make connection, and I really think the things we can do to stay connected are so incredibly easy that it's like shocking to me that people don't do it. Like, how much does it take to send your partner a text in the middle of the day and say, oh, I was just in the store and this song was playing and it always makes me think of you?
Yeah.
What does it take? 3 seconds? If I leave the house in the morning and you leave your wife a note like, hey, it was so fun hanging out on the couch watching TV with you last night. I married the prettiest girl in the world. What does that take? 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Like, who wouldn't want that note? Like, who wouldn't want to be told, you're still special. I still think you're handsome. I still think you're pretty. I'm so glad I made the choice I made. Like, that's such a easy thing to say, and it's such an easy thing to forget to say.
Yep.
You know, so like, but I really believe that's the key. Like, that's the secret, is to just maintain.
James, your research around death and your time working in a hospice, what has that taught you about life?
I think it taught me everything about life. I mean, I think it was the most formative thing I ever did. And I'm glad I did it at a young age. I look back on it now and I'm like, what kind of weird 19-year-old is like, what are you going to do this summer? I'm going to volunteer for a hospice. Like, that was weird. Like, I was weird even back then. But no, it taught me everything. I mean, it taught me that all of this is on loan, you know, like, we don't own any of it. Like how strange it is to be afraid to lose things when we never really owned any of it to begin with. Like, everything was just loaned to us. Like, love is not permanently gifted, it's loaned. Life is not permanently gifted, it's loaned. Like, there's a finite number of sunsets I'm going to see in my life. I don't know the number. It could be 5, it could be 500. I hope it's closer to 500. But I don't know what the number will be. And that should be a reminder to, like, stop and look, you know, and to savor that. And I think love is the same thing. Like, everything you love, you'll lose. Like, that people would hear that and say it's morbid, but I don't think it's morbid. I think it's the most important thing you could possibly remember, is that I think it's insane to love anything. I think to love anything is to open yourself up to the inevitability of losing it or having it lose you. Because every marriage ends. It ends in death or divorce, but it ends. Like, and I don't think that's a reason not to love. I think that love is so wonderful and powerful that it's absolutely worth the pain that comes at the end of it. It's absolutely worth it. Like, because it's so beautiful and so wonderful. Like, and I would never trade the pain. Like, I would never trade the love and joy that I've felt for people I've lost for not having to feel that pain. Like, I in some ways, it's like so wonderful to have that pain. It's an honor to have that pain because it means I deeply loved this person or this dog or this whatever. So I think it taught me to view everything that way. It taught me to view everything as being temporary. And I think that has helped me see endings in a different way, either as the inevitable conclusion or as a new beginning. And again, hospice work really taught me that, you know, if you're going to be afraid of something, death isn't the worst thing to be afraid of. It's the only thing that's absolutely certain. Like, be afraid of spiders. Like, you might not run into too many of those. You could avoid them, you know, but death, like, you're definitely going to die. Like, every single person you know is going to die. Everyone you love is going to die. Like, it's terrible. I'd never say this to a toddler, but like, it's a real thing. So to be afraid of it. And by the way, we're so afraid of it that it's almost like we're certain we know it's bad, when in fact, it's like something we know absolutely nothing about. It's the totally undiscovered country. So why are we so terrified of it? It may be like the best thing ever. And that, like, when it happens, we're gonna be like, oh my God, why did I wait this long? Like, this is so awesome. Like, I didn't, so I just feel like it's taught me a lot about endings, and it shaped my personality a lot.
James, would you say that people often use their children as weapons in a divorce? And what's your experience with that been like?
I think people in divorce use anything they can as a weapon because they're flailing and they're terrified and they're sad and they're angry. So they're going to just pick up anything they can and hit somebody over the head with it. You know, when COVID happened, I remember, like, when the lockdowns first started, you know, those scary first days where it was like nobody knew what this was. And all of a sudden we were like, all right, like, go home and stay home kind of thing. And I remember I thought, oh, I can't wait to see how people hit each other over the head in custody cases with this. And it took about a day. It took about a day before whoever had the kid suddenly was a very cautious epidemiologist. You
Yeah.
know, like they never were before.
Yeah.
Like they never were before. They never washed their hands after they peed. But they were like, now they were like, nope. The children must stay with me until further notice, because if they even go outside of the house, they could burst into flames. And the other parent, who was like super, super careful about all those things, was suddenly like, it's no problem. They can come back and forth. It's absolutely fine. They can go out. They can do anything they need to. Because again, like people are just hopped up on their own position. They want to be right more than they want to be happy.
Yeah.
So they want to win. They want to win. So yeah, I mean, but I also have always said that the person who cares less about the kids has significant tactical advantage in custody litigation. Like the bank robber has tremendous advantage over the police because they can just shoot innocent bystanders. Police can't. Like, so if you don't care about your kids, you have tactical advantage in custody litigation, because a person who cares about their kids is going to like not do the thing that's going to win. They're going to do the thing that's good for the kids.
Yeah.
And that might mean taking a loss temporarily on something or having to give something up that they wanted because that's what's good for the kids and is going to keep the kids out of conflict. But that's hard. Like that's hard for people to do. You know, people with good intentions put the kids in the middle all the time.
James, you're dealing with high net worth couples. Do you think that people get into marriage to get a divorce on purpose?
I think rarely. There's some people that are trying to sort of suggest that agenda, like particularly there's a lot of like, it's got like a misogyny to it. There's a lot of people that are like, oh, well, women just like get into a marriage and they like, you know, run their chips up and have the kids. And then they're like, all right, I'm cashing out, you know, and they like, you know, take the guy for everything he's worth. And I mean, have I seen that happen? Like, yeah, sure, I've seen it happen. I've seen people certainly be opportunistic when a marriage ends. Like they're, you know, when there's a limited amount of resources, like, you know, people are going to get as much as they can. Like, it's not that they're horrible people. Like, but when there was, you know, during the pandemic, like, you know, when there was like not that much stuff in the store, when stuff came, everybody was trying to take as much as they could because they're scared. It's not that they're evil. I wouldn't look at them and be like, oh, they're trying to take all the bread because they hate other people. It's like, no, they're just scared they're not going to get any more breads. They're trying to get as much as they can. And they're convinced that, well, if I don't do it, somebody else is going to take it. So I might as well try to take as much as I can. Like they're being selfish.
Yeah.
I get it. But I think that that's what happens in these cases, is that people just get very caught up in what's happening and they become a very unrecognizable version of themselves.
James, if one of the parties doesn't want to sign a prenup, is that a red flag?
It depends on why.
Mm-hmm.
I think it depends on why. I mean, it's definitely cause for concern under all circumstances. But by red flag, I'm interpreting that to mean like you might not want to be with this person.
Yeah.
I don't see it as that. It's cause for concern.
Okay.
Because it either means a red flag, that this person has intentions that are somewhat nefarious, but more likely, I think it's a cause for concern because it means there's some miscommunication between the two of you about what you should expect from each other.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like because really, like, what is a prenup other than defining more clearly what we owe each other?
Yeah.
Because love is, and I know this is going to seem like an unromantic thing to say, but I don't think it is. I think reality is actually very romantic. I think fairy tales are lovely, but they're fairy tales. Like, I think real love is lovely enough that you don't need to like sugarcoat it. Like, I think, look, real love is beautiful enough. I don't need to pretend like that it's perfect and never ends and it doesn't need any maintenance. Like, I think that's very silly. Like, I think real love is lovely enough, you know? And I think that, you know, when you have a conversation about a prenup, you're having a conversation. Love is an economy. Like, simply put, love is an economy.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that doesn't sound romantic, but like an economy is any trade of value. You know, like you don't trade coconuts. Like, how many coconuts equals how many coconuts? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, one coconut equals one coconut. But how many coconuts equals how many bananas? Now we have an economy. You know, I'm bringing something different, you're bringing something different. And how many of what I have equals how many of what you have? And the only two people that really have to be satisfied in that economy are the two people in the transaction. So if in my relationship, I bring money and I bring security, and I bring, an abundance of resources, but I also bring like impatience, and I bring I bring some negatives and I bring some positives. And my partner brings kindness and softness and like a little sweetness at the end of the day. And they bring some joy and peace to my heart, which is a restless one and always like stressed. And, what's that worth? Like, quantify it. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. Like, you couldn't possibly. So that's what this conversation is about. Like the prenup conversation is about, when do I feel loved by you? And when do you feel loved by me? What is it that I do that makes you feel like I'm the person you don't want to live without? Like, what's the thing I bring that no one else brings and no one else could bring? By the way, I want to know. Don't you want to know?
Yeah.
Like, don't you want to know? Like, what question would you be more interested in knowing the answer to than to say to your romantic partner, when do you feel loved by me?
Yeah.
What do I do that makes you feel loved? Because here's what's funny. If you've never done it, do it. Ask the question, because you will be shocked by the answers. I remember asking my romantic partner, when do you feel loved by me? And the answers she gave were they wouldn't have cracked my top 100. She's like, the way that you always make my coffee. And like you know exactly which mug I like, and you know exactly how much cinnamon. And sometimes you're doing it while you're talking, and it's like you don't even realize you're doing it, but you do it perfect. Because and I feel so loved when you do that. And I feel so seen when you do that. I would never have thought that. I would have thought, oh, that time you took me on that romantic trip and wasn't that.
Yep.
And if you said to me, when do I feel like most loved? When do I feel? It's the same kind of thing. Like, it's some dumb little thing. It was like, oh, when I was like really worried about something that was going on with my dad, and she just like put her hand on me and just sort of gave me like a little, and like I just felt like she knew I couldn't talk about it. Like, and she knew that if she made a big deal out of it, it would be hard for me because I don't like feeling weak. But she like knew I needed something, and she knew just what the something was. And like, to me, like, I don't know, man, like, boy, that's a question worth asking, isn't it?
Totally.
So prenup, it's the same thing. Like, what do I mean to you? What do I owe to you? If somebody hurt you, like, because here's the thing, I don't think you can feel loved unless you feel safe. I think your heart has to feel safe. And I think that a prenup is about people feeling safe.
Yeah.
And there's a line in the song, there's Prince was one of my favorite musicians, and there's an album of his called Sign of the Times. There's a really pretty love song on it called If I Was Your Girlfriend. And it's written by a man singing to a woman. And he says to her, if I was your girlfriend, like if I wasn't your boyfriend, if I wasn't who I am, if I was just one of your girlfriends. And the lyrics are like, would you let me dress you? Would you help me pick out your clothes? And one of the lines is, if I was your girlfriend, would you run to me if somebody hurt you, even if that somebody was me? And I think that's such a lovely thought. Like, to say to someone, like, I want you to feel safe from everything, including me.
Yeah.
Like, including a future version of me that loses the plot. Like, I want you to feel safe always. And that's what a prenup should be about. A prenup should be about, what do we need to feel safe? Because I don't think the answer is, like, if I'm a millionaire and you're a yoga teacher who owns nothing, and we get married and we're married for 5 years, if you think I owe you 1/2 of everything I had before I met you, you're insane. That's insane, right? But if I build a thing while we're together and you're with me, helping me and there for me, do you deserve something? Of course you deserve something. Even if you didn't help me build anything at all. If I have a bunch of resources and we get married and you think, hey, I'm not going to do anything to further my career because this guy makes lots of money, and we've had that discussion. And I say, babe, why are you going to work? I make lots of money. Come on, why should we both be stressed? And now we break up. Okay. Is it really? Do I care so little about you that I would say, like, oh yeah, figure it out, I don't have to tell you? Like, no,
Yeah.
Of course you're going to need some things. You're going to you're going to need some things. Do you need half of everything I own? Absolutely not. But do you need some things? Of course you need some things. So this is a conversation worth having.
Yeah.
James, if someone is listening to this episode right now, they're in a relationship, they've been in that relationship for a long time, they're married, they're thinking about the divorce, but they don't know how to approach that conversation, what would your advice be to that person to get to that point where they can have the conversation with their partner in the best way possible?
Yeah, so I think when you start with the word divorce, it brings something up in people that's very intense. So I think you should be talking about the conditions that have created that. I mean, sometimes having that discussion facilitated by a third party is better, like getting some kind of marriage counseling or meeting with a therapist to facilitate that communication, or even seeing your own therapist individually and telling them, I'm not sure how to parse this. Because I think how we're all so unique in some ways that like some people, like the right tool for the right task. Like there are some people that just give it to them straight, don't dance around it. Some people, it's like you have to be very delicate because they're conflict adverse or they might be very fragile or, so I think that it should be an individual choice. But I think that really, again, like I don't start with the ending. You know what I mean? Like I mean, when you meet a person, like go the other way in the relationship. Like, if I'm out at a bar and I meet a woman who I think is attractive, I don't walk up to her and go, hey, you seem like the kind of person I would enjoy having sex with. So I'm hoping we're going to have something in common. And that's why I wanted to approach you, is that I was going to try to figure out a way to be a little charming, maybe make you laugh. And then ideally, we're going to like each other enough that we'll consider having sex with each other at some time in the relatively near future. Like maybe that'd work if it was presented funny enough, or if you're good looking enough. But I think it's better to do the, like, oh, I'm just interested in you and I'm interesting. And that's what we're doing. And like, yeah, we both know, like, this is, like we both kind of know where we might want to go with this, but you don't start with that. So it's the same thing with like divorce conversation. I don't think you walk in and go, I'm thinking about divorcing you. Like, well, that's going to go badly, that conversation, right? But if you said like, I'll use a very personal example. I've been divorced for 20 years. My kids were 5 and 7 when I got divorced. And my ex-wife is still one of my close friends. She's a wonderful woman. She's been remarried for 15 years. We just hung out together for a whole weekend. She and I and her husband, when our son got married. So she's a great person. And we were friends. We dated in college. So we were like college sweethearts. And I remember when we had our first and the discussion that led to us getting divorced. And that was, we had felt kind of disconnected, or I had felt very disconnected from her, but she seemed pretty happy. So I was like, well, I don't want to rain on her parade. Like I love her, so I don't want to, and she's the mother of my kids and we had young kids and, but I just remember like, we just felt very, I don't know. It was like, we just were like roommates running a daycare center together, And the kids were asleep upstairs. It was fairly early in the morning, and I was making her coffee and I was making myself tea. And I remember I looked at her and I don't know why I went for it. I said, can I ask you something? And she said, yeah. And I said, are you happy? And she looked at me and she went, do you really want to do this right now? And I said, I don't know, not really, but it's as bad a time as any.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah, I'm not. And I said, I'm not either. And she was like, well, what do we do about that? I was like, I have no idea. And she's like, well, you're a divorce lawyer. You're supposed to know. I was like, I know, but is that really like where we're going? And she's like, I don't know. She's like, I don't know how we don't. And I was like, oh man. And it was actually a really beautiful discussion. And I remember something she said at the end of it. It stayed with me. It was still one of the nicest things anybody ever said to me. She said, if sheer power of will could make two people love each other for the rest of their lives, I would love you forever.
No.
And I remember thinking like, yeah, it's totally true. Like if we wanted to love each other so bad, and we do love each other. Like she's still one of my favorite people. She's still hilarious. And I see in my sons, like all the best things about her.
Yeah.
But we just weren't right for each other in that way. We want different things. We see the world differently. Like she's really, really happily married for way longer than we were married. And when I still see her with her husband, like I go, oh yeah, that was a better choice. Very different guy. therapist, really quiet, really patient, you know, total opposite of me. Like if you met the two of us, you'd be like, no woman could love both of us.
James, we like to wrap up our episodes with our guests sharing an important object in their life that they have near them. Is there something that you want to share with us today?
Yeah. So this one has a good story. I was given the heads up on this, so this one's got a good story. So when I first got divorced, my kids were 5 and 7. And of course, like most parents, like my biggest worry was not losing half my stuff. My biggest worry was them. I wanted them to be okay. Like like every parent, I wanted their life to be perfect, even though I've never met anybody who had a perfect life. But I thought maybe my kids would be the first two people, you know, I wanted them to be. And I knew that their parents getting divorced, I could never pretend that I gave them a perfect life. Like I knew I screwed something up, or we screwed something up, or something got screwed up. And I had been my ex-wife and I did not, like I didn't go home as often as I should have. I stayed at work. I'm partly because I was like poor and terrified and really wanted to be a good lawyer and was trying to build a practice, which, you know, thankfully paid off and happened. But when I was like beginning it, I had no plan B. I didn't come from money. Like I really like get rich or die trying. That was the plan, you know? And it also became a way for me to hide from the fact that when I went home, I didn't feel connected to this person and she didn't feel connected to me. So I didn't spend a lot of time with my kids, because to spend time with my kids, I had to be home, and to be home, I had to be with her. And so when we got divorced, she said to me, you know, Jim, like these kids love you. Like they love you so much, and all they want is to spend time with you. So you have to make time. You have to make time. And so every Wednesday, I would leave work early, and I would pick the boys up, and we would go out to dinner. There was a place called Johnny Rockets, which is a franchise in the United States. I don't know if they have it there, but it's like a burger place, burgers and milkshakes and fries. And it just became like a ritual. We always went to Johnny Rockets, you know, and then we would do something else. We'd go to the park, or we'd go to a movie, or we'd go, but it was a weeknight, you know, and I would help them with their homework and stuff like that. But we always went to Johnny Rockets, and it was very special to me. It meant a lot to me. It was also not expensive because I was broke at the time. And it just was like my favorite place. Well, it went out of business. It went out of business many years ago. So like now it hasn't been around for ages. So about 4 years ago, my then 21-year-old son, for Christmas, I don't know where he found it. He must have found it online. He found a Johnny Rockets glass.
Oh, cool.
And he gave it to me with this card that was like, some of my favorite memories of being a kid was going to Johnny Rockets with you. And I think it was the nicest present anyone's ever given me. Like it meant so much to me. And I have it on a shelf over my espresso maker. Like, so every morning it's like one of the first things I see, because the first thing I do is want to get espresso in me. And it's right in my eye line. And so, yeah, so that's my sort of inspirational special item. I don't know where my son Billy got it. I think he got it on eBay or something. But it's a glass that someone probably stole from a Johnny Rockets many years ago. And it probably like cost him like $2. But I have a Rolex, and I have this, and I would absolutely, if I could only take one item from a burning house, it would be this. I'd leave the Rolex. So
Oh, I love that.
Well, look, James, we have been consuming your content on all different platforms. And one thing we can say is we love watching and listening to you. You're so engaging on a topic that is extremely hard for people to talk about. And I think what you talk about is so important for people, whether they're in a marriage, going into a marriage. Just this discussion that we've had today, I think it makes people feel a lot more clear around something that maybe doesn't get talked about a lot at the dinner table. So thank you so much for sharing your knowledge
Oh,
today.
thank you for saying that. That's the whole reason I do it. I have to tell you, I did not need a part-time job. I already have the most full-time job ever. And but I do this really for the love of it. I really enjoy these conversations. After a day in court, I feel exhausted. After this conversation, I feel invigorated. I always feel very like affirmed. And it's as good for me to remember these things as it is for anyone to hear them and to feel them. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity again. It's great to see you both.
Thanks, James.
Thanks, James.